In terms of basketball, I've learned I've learned to value and appreciate the process rather than focus on the results. Often when I was a younger coach, I cared about, well, am I going to win the championship? Are we going to win this game? Rather than focusing on what needed to be done in order to get those results.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Mr. Odhiambo, and welcome to another episode of Collins Elevates You, where we're all about shifting mindsets and design potential in the youth through the game of basketball. Now, today, I'm so happy, I'm so excited, I'm so humbled because you're hosting the one and only Queen of Stats, as I call her, Coach Liz Mills. Let me just tell you guys, she's been in the game coaching for over 10 years, working with senior players, in Africa, even in Sydney, and she has so much experience. I remember the first time I listened to her speak on an interview with Silale, I was like, I must have her on a show. I immediately went and followed her, and recently after the games, this pre-qualifier games in Africa, she created stats, man, and you could see them everywhere on our pages, on our WhatsApp status, because they are valuable. And that is why I decided, you know what, she has to come to the show and share with us her philosophies. Why should we be focusing on stats, scouting, and video, such things, and basically some other advices about life and everything. You understand? So I won't take so much time, guys. Make sure that you enjoy the show, okay? And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section, and remember to share this video, okay? And also, guys, remember to subscribe to the channel, okay? Coach Collins Odhiambo on YouTube. Other than that, guys, enjoy the show and let's go. How are you doing?
I'm great, Coach. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm a big fan.
Thank you. So how's Sydney?
Well, it's nice and sunny here. We're heading into summer, so it's beach weather. My favorite time of the year.
Oh, nice. So what do you normally do? Because it's your favorite time.
Oh, well, generally I spend a lot of time in the pool and at the beach. It's a great opportunity to spend time with friends and family, especially as you get a lot more daylight, so nice dinners outside and picnics, etc. So that's what I'm doing while I'm at home.
That is good. How is the COVID situation right now in Sydney?
So we've actually done a really good job of handling COVID. We are barely registering any new cases at this point, and had quite a low mortality rate. We're playing it very safe. We're keeping our borders closed, and that's why you haven't seen me in Africa this year.
Oh yeah. By the way, I actually thought you were still in Rwanda even for the Afro basket.
I wish. I wish I'd been there. Trust me.
Yeah, man. Anyway, this is COVID, and I know you'll overcome it. So, for guys to understand, to know Coach Liz, I feel like it's important that we go back a little bit. So maybe you can just tell us where you were born and maybe where you went to school.
Sure. Okay. I was born in Sydney, Australia. I am an identical twin, so my sister and I grew up playing multiple sports together, and I studied at the University of Technology, Sydney. I have a Bachelor of Management in Sport and Exercise Science. I did my master's degree in coaching at Sydney University, and more recently I've completed a course in basketball analytics through Sports Management Worldwide. Formerly, I was also a gym and personal trainer / instructor, and had previously worked as a strength and conditioning coach.
Nice. So when did you start playing basketball, and what inspired you to get into basketball?
Well, as I previously mentioned, my sister and I played multiple sports growing up. netball, hockey, tennis, swimming, athletics. But we only came to basketball when we were about 15. We were watching the Women's National Basketball League here in Australia, and that actually inspired us to play. And that's really how we taught ourselves to play as well. So this was during the era of women's basketball in Australia, which produced talents such as Penny Taylor and Lauren Jackson. And so watching them play inspired us to start playing basketball.
Ah, nice. So who was your favorite player when you're growing up? Who was your favorite player growing up?
Well, I would have to say that my favorite player growing up was Penny Taylor. She was a small forward who contributed in multiple areas, scoring, assists, rebounds, steals. She was super competitive, really versatile, and a great leader for her team. She went on to play in the WNBA, Europe, and represented Australia in numerous World Cups and Olympics. So she was definitely my favorite player growing up, and I tried to mirror my game on hers, but didn't quite match up.
Nice. So you played the Australian League or the college league in Australia, or how far did you get?
So I played at the junior representative level for my Sydney team, and also at the senior level with my senior club team, which was the league below our national basketball league for women. So I never made it too high up, but I had the opportunity to play with a lot of former Australian players and our national league players who played in this league during the off season.
Ah, nice. That is good. So I actually heard somebody say that when guys are young, they're inspired to try to try like multiple sports, and I feel like every basketballer that I talk to, especially like in Kenya, you'll hear, "Oh, I started with football, I started with this particular sports," and I feel like you have to go through that. It's like you have to try multiple sports, and then you find this is where I want to focus on. So I feel like that is like a normal trend for most athletes. And I don't know what you can say about this. This just came to my mind actually. Will you advise like young coaches to allow like the young players to try multiple sports? Maybe why it's important?
Definitely. The research actually backs this fact or assertion that players who grow up playing multiple sports are actually more skilled when they specialize later. So what we encourage young players to do is play multiple sports, especially team sports, because that brings in leadership, teamwork, and other skills like that, which not only help you in sport, but also help you in other areas of your life. And then you can take the skills that you've learned from other sports, and when you choose to specialize, say in basketball at 15 or 16, this actually makes you a better player. We find that players who only play, say, basketball from 5 to, professional, they've missed out in certain areas because of this early specialization. So I highly recommend that coaches encourage their players, their youth players, to play as many sports as they can while growing up.
Right. So just on that aspect of growing up and coaching, who was your favorite coach and how did they impact your basketball career? Let me just put it that way. The most influential basketball coach.
Unfortunately, I didn't get to work with this coach because she's now retired and I don't coach much in Australia anymore. But Coach Carrie Graff inspired me to become a coach. She was an Australian coach who claimed numerous Women's National Basketball League titles here in Australia, as well as WNBA titles, and led our Australian women's team, both as an assistant head coach. She's a tough, no-nonsense, unapologetic coach who brought such professionalism to the Australian game back in the early 90s, especially when coaching was dominated by men. She coached some of Australia's best players, yet managed to make everyone feel valued and respected. And watching her significantly impacted on how I coach, and as we have similar personalities and coaching styles. So I greatly admire her, and we've met on one occasion. I was able to tell her how much of an inspiration she was for me on my coaching journey.
What inspired you to become a coach?
I think it was really watching the coaches in the Women's National Basketball League. I know I keep going back to this, but I can't emphasize how important it was for my sister and I to see women coaches in a successful coaching environment and making coaching a legitimate career option, not just a hobby. And so that inspired my sister and I to start coaching. We started coaching netball together when we were about 14, coaching mini ball like under 8s and 9s. And then when we came across to basketball at 15, it seemed natural for us to take those skills across, and we started coaching basketball when we were 16.
Nice. So with all the years that you've been, coaching over 10 years, I'm interested to know your basketball philosophy. Your coaching, your basketball philosophy as a coach. Let me put it that way.
Sure. I think the foundation for all coaching is about the relationships you have with your players, your coaching staff, support staff, management, and fans. Therefore, the basis of my coaching philosophy is really built around relationships and building genuine and respectful relationships with every player, member of the coaching staff, support staff. And this is done through effective communication. Being able to communicate effectively with people around you is crucial. And I think when you build these relationships, you have a team first culture. No one is bigger than the team. And we all understand how we can work together and be the best that we can be. Making sure that everybody understands and accepts and are accountable for their roles in the team. And for me, I think that sums up my entire philosophy, which is relationships first and then team that builds the best team that you can have.
How did you do it? Like maybe in a nutshell, what did you focus on that helped you guys, like in your first season, and then you end up leading the team to a championship? Like, how was that experience? Just in brief, you can just share with us.
Well, it was actually my first time coaching a men's team. I didn't tell them that when I first started with them, but they were very open to having me join them. It's still one of my proudest memories in Africa, to be honest, even though it's almost 10 years ago now. This was a really special team. They embraced me from the first practice session. The players and the coaching staff were open to new ideas and worked really hard to improve every single training session. The team had immense self-belief, especially considering we were massive underdogs and no one expected us to win. So we knew that our preparation was what separated us from everybody else and that we could rely on that in a pressure situation. Everybody understood their roles and they executed their role. We went on to beat the league champions in the semifinals and then the reigning national champion in the final, which was huge. And this team proved that a team of stars will never beat a star team. Without this experience, actually, I probably wouldn't have continued coaching in Africa. So shout out to heroes.
Oh, that is good. That is good. You said that a team of stars. Say that again.
Well, a team of stars will never beat a star team.
No. Oh, that is good. That's good. I think that's
one of my favorite quotes. One of my favorite quotes. So feel free to steal it.
I think I'll even have that on a t-shirt. I'll put it on a t-shirt. That is good, man. That is good. That is good. So, working with them, because you said that you worked with the junior teams also. And you see, like, for example, me, I'm actually focused on the youth right now. I'm trying to share with them as much knowledge and skills in terms of life and basketball that I've learned over the years. So I'm just curious, what are some of the things that maybe you can advise us to focus on as young coaches when you're working with these young basketball players?
Well, I have to admit that I haven't worked with juniors in probably 10 years. So I'm a bit out of my element at the moment. But I think from working with seniors and I can see the gaps in their game that need to be addressed at a junior level. I think aside from teaching the fundamentals, I think the one aspect of the game that is overlooked at the junior level is decision making. We do not produce enough players who are able to read the game, make decisions based on what they see, and react to that. I'd like to see more junior coaches adding decision making into their drills, or spending more time with players looking at film in order to show players the difference between a good and a bad decision. Obviously, this is something that they'll also gain through experience. So the more games they play, the better they'll be able to read and react. An example of a drill for young coaches would be, you know, a player is coming off a pin down and his defender locks and trails. What do? You know, so you curl cut. Then what you can ask your defender to do is squeeze the screen or cheat the screen. So the offensive player doesn't know how the defense is going to defend them. So they have to be able to read what the defense is giving them and react accordingly. So it's about making those decisions, putting decision-making into your drills so that players learn to be like, okay, well, this is what the defense is giving me. Here's how I react. Rather than I'm just going to do this because this is the only way I taught how to do it. So hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think I'm even going to share that specific part with some players. As a female coach, I know there's some challenges that you've gone through, but because you've actually stood out, and that is why we know you. So I'm interested in knowing some of the challenges that you've gone through and how you've overcome them, because I'm sure this will inspire other young upcoming female coaches.
Well, as a female coach, I've unfortunately had to deal with a lot of sexism and discrimination based on my gender. Often I've been overlooked for positions, especially head coaching roles, because I'm a woman. I've overcome some of these by being a role model in the basketball community. The more people who see a female coach working with men's teams, the more open becomes the idea. And hopefully I'm inspiring a generation of young female coaches to be young females to be coaches. I've also continued formal education, as previously mentioned, in order to be the most qualified candidate for a role. And I continue to network and establish my coaching community in Africa. I have often created my own opportunities by reaching out to federations and teams myself. But finally, I'd say I've had a great support circle who have always been there for me. My mum and dad who have encouraged and supported me, my twin sister who's been with me every step of the way, and my friends all over Africa, Australia, America, who have continued to cheer for me no matter what team I'm working with. So whilst I've faced numerous challenges, I really still want to stress that I've been embraced by all the teams I've worked with, and I cannot speak more highly of the club and federation presidents who have given me these opportunities.
You can share with us some tips on how young players can improve their basketball IQ. This is something that we hear. He has a good basketball IQ. She has a good basketball IQ. Maybe some tips that you can share with us to help the young players elevate their basketball IQ.
Well, what really separates the good players from the great players are the ones who can read and understand the game. And this is what we refer to when we're talking about basketball IQ. So players who understand why we perform the actions we do, what the defense is doing and how we should react to that, and how to make the best possible in games. That's what we're referring to when we talk about basketball IQ. And understanding these give those players an advantage over those who don't. So look to develop this through game experience, watching film, understanding analytics, and speaking with their coaches in terms of understanding why they're running their offenses and defensive sets, or why they're making the decisions that they're making as coaches. I think fundamentally, though, it is up to coaches to assist players to develop this. So there's only so much a player can do to develop this on their own. Coaches need to take responsibility to develop this in our players, and it comes down to adding, decision making to our drills, watching film with our players, teaching them about analytics, So that's on us to help players develop high IQs.
Oh, nice. You took us through stats in the other coaches forum. I was like, this is interesting. Like, if you have this, and you don't improve, then there's a problem. You have a problem as a player. Because let me just leave it to you. Just share with us the importance of stats, and maybe you can talk about how to combine it with the video. The way you explained it, that hit home for me. Maybe you can just share that again.
So I think like any situation in life, the more relevant information you have, the better. So when you have access to this relevant information and more of it, you're able to make more informed and better decisions for your players and your team. For example, not only do I watch games, I rewatch games so that in case I see anything that I've missed, and then I look at the box score, and then I look at advanced stats to get a more objective evaluation of a team and player performance. So by combining scouting, film, and stats, I have an abundance of information that I can then combine in order to make better decisions. So for coaches out there, film and stats are a great way to provide feedback to your players and your teams with regards to areas that they are excelling in and areas that they need to improve. So players need feedback in order to improve, and using film and stats are a great way to complement what you as a coach are telling them. For example, say you have a player who is constantly late on defense. If you cut up film and show him or her how this impacts on the team, he will understand the ramifications of not improving in this area. So, or alternatively, if you have a team who has a poor defensive rating and you can use that as a comparison to other teams that they're competing against, this is a great way to motivate your team to get better. So hopefully those are a couple of examples of how you can use film and analytics or stats to help you improve your team and players. Also want to emphasize that it's also not like a lot of coaches, trainers think of it more as I'm going to pinpoint what they're doing wrong. Don't forget that it's also about what they're doing right. So encouraging them, like say they've improved their footwork, continue to show them film on how their footwork has improved. So constant reinforcement of good behavior as well.
Finished our the first round of the basket.
Yeah.
Which team are you rooting for?
Oh. Well, that's a tough question. I'm not actually supporting any specific team for AfroBasket. I've consulted with a couple of these different teams in the first round in terms of scouting and providing analytics. But for February, I expect to join a coaching staff. So that's the team I'll be coaching for. So stay tuned. I'm not going to reveal anything yet, but you'll be the first to know.
Nice. That is okay. Now, you've worked you've worked on basketball in Africa with the multiple teams, and you've seen where we are in terms of basketball compared to, because I believe like in Sydney the basketball is more advanced. So maybe what can you say about even based on the games that just ended, what can you say about the potential of basketball in Africa, and maybe are there some things that you can suggest you can maybe work on to improve the game here in Africa from your own experience?
Well, the future for African basketball is incredibly bright. I'm really excited about the talent that is coming through from the junior level. Look at the great results of the Malian team in the under-20 World Cup in 2018, where they came second. And just this week, we have the under-18 AfroBasket, which is underway. The talent in that tournament is exceptional, both on the women and the men's side. I think grassroots development programs and academies play a massive role in the tidal wave that is about to hit and explode across Africa. Even as you mentioned at AfroBasket 2 weeks ago, we saw a number of rookies making their debuts at the senior level and more than holding their own. So I'm really excited to see the development of players and teams over the next couple of years. I think an area that can be improved for junior teams and senior teams is the administration of the game, as well as preparation for tournaments. I think I'll speak more about this. I'll speak more about the senior level because this is where I'm coaching. In terms of preparation, we don't see a lot of teams have more than a couple of days to prepare for these, say, AfroBasket tournaments. But even regardless of that, we don't have teams sending out film, playbooks, scouting. These can all be done by coaches weeks in advance of these tournaments, so that these help prepare their players even while they're not in training camp. So it's little things and little details like that that can have a huge impact on how well your team plays. I also think federations need to be better financed and better organized so that a lot of these things aren't done last minute. And so there's less pressure on coaches and teams that have to worry about, oh, well, are we going to be able to make it? Do we have the money to even fly? Can we have a training camp? So that all these questions aren't a distraction. Well, actually, I think there's a lot of room that Kenya can improve. I think them, Uganda, and Cape Verde still are some of the most exciting teams heading into round 2. Morocco has a really young team because they're rebuilding, and I think they can only get better once they get more experience and perhaps add a veteran player or 2 to that team. Cape Verde only played with 7 players in Egypt, so just imagine what damage they can do with 10 players. And then Kenya obviously had a lot of background noise with the team. I think once they can get their 12 players in and they can prepare a little bit better than they did for this round, they'll get better too.
With that being said, now let me just go to some quick fire questions, but you can take your time. They're called quick fire, but you can take your time.
I'll be short and
yeah. So share with us one major life lesson that you've learned through basketball and how it has impacted your life.
In terms of basketball, I've learned to value and appreciate the process rather than focus on the results. Often when I was a younger coach, I cared about, well, am I going to win the championship? Are we going to win this game? Rather than focusing on what needed to be done in order to get those results. In the broader context of life, this is more about appreciating and understanding the journey rather than
Nice. What is your life mantra that you live by?
My mantra is probably, there is no fate but what you make. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. You only have one life, so make the most out of it.
Before we complete, before we come to our close, how can guys find you online?
Okay, so you can find me on Facebook as Coach Liz Mills, on Instagram under coach.mills13, and on Twitter as coach_Liz Mills.
Before we finish, let me just say, first of all, thank you so much for coming to the show. We acknowledge you. We appreciate you for the job that you're doing for Africa, basketball, just deciding to, want to be part of the growth of the Africa. We pray that, you continue rising and elevating to the highest level possible. Because you are let me just say you are a leader in terms of women coaches outside there. So, you are inspiring other young coaches, women coaches, and even young players. So just continue doing what you're doing. Continue sharing those stats. Man, like the lessons that you shared, they are so detailed. Like they have been shared everywhere. Like you go on status, WhatsApp status, you are finding them. Basketball players are just sharing, and that means you're doing something that is making an impact. So we celebrate you, we acknowledge you, keep up the good work, and may God bless you and up more and more doors for you. So the last question is
Well, before I answer that, I just want to say thank you, Coach, for having me on the show. I'm looking forward to seeing all your upcoming guests and learning from you and them. So keep up the great work. And you're also a leader in your community. You're a great young coach who is inspiring not only more older coaches, but also the young coaches coming up. But to answer your question, if I had to write anything, I would say always be open to learning and getting better. For players, it's about being coachable. If the best players in the world can be coached, you have no excuse. And for coaches, continue to self-evaluate and always look for opportunities to grow and develop.
Yes, man. Thank you so much, Coach Liz, man. We are so happy and excited that you took your time, just to be on the show. And I'm sure we're going to have this more and more. Okay, and guys, remember to go and follow her on her social media and ask her questions, and I'm sure she'll be able to answer and help you guys. Other than that, guys, remember to love your life. That is the only life you have. Live fully so that you can rest in peace and create a legacy, because how you live your life is what you're going to leave behind. Okay, it's your boy Odhiambo, and we are out.